Welcome to APUSH News. My name is Brandon. Today we'll be talking about the German immigration and the effect on the American economy from the years of 1812 to 1860. The Germans influenced America in many ways. In just a few years, large amount of German immigrants came into America. This Germanic flood stirred a little panic in the hearts of native-born Americans because the Germans largely stayed to themselves, far from the madding crowds and nativist fears of northeastern cities. They prospered with ease, building towns in Wisconsin, agricultural colonies in Texas, and religious communities in Pennsylvania. They added their culture to heady brew of reform and community building that so animated antebellum America. And now to Emily Wong with the history of German immigrants.
Thank you, Brandon. And now is some more information about German immigration into America. From the 1830s to the 1860s, about 2 million Germans migrated to the United States of America. The German immigrants who moved to America were usually struggling farmers, political refugees, and religious refugees. The Germans moved to America because there was no unified nation of Germany until 1871. When Prussian Otto von Bismarck assembled the German state, they arrived in different times for different reasons. One well-known group that came over was the 48ers. They were refugees from the abortive Democratic Revolution of 1848. What they wanted in Germany was unification, constitutional government, and guarantees of human rights. Others, such as Jews, pious, and Anabaptist groups, like the Amish and Maimonides, coveted religious freedom. And now to Amar to talk about the 48ers.
Thanks, Emily. And now I'll give you an insight into the 48ers. The 48ers are a collective term for the supporters of the European revolutions of 1848 to 1849. They favored unification, constitutional government, and guarantees of human rights. These supporters of democracy came to America because of their failed mission back in Germany to secure a constitutional government. The German 48ers opposed nativism and slavery and were major players in the Civil War. Many of the 48ers settled in the vicinity of Fredericksburg in the hill country of Texas, where they also voted against the secession of Texas. Many of the 48ers were well-educated, respected, and wealthy. They later became very successful.
Here is a reenactment of the Germans coming to America.
Great reenactment video. My name is Xuan. I am about to talk to you guys about how the German immigration affects the American economy. Due to the limited availability of farmland in Germany, heavy Germans decided to migrate to the United States of America during the 1800s. Many German immigrants came with fatter purses than the Irish people. Following the revolutions in German states in 1848, a wave of political refugees fled to America and became known as 48ers. About half went to cities and the other half went to farms in the Midwest. Texas attracted many Germans who came to farm, and later immigrants took industrial jobs in cities. Many were small landowners or independent artisans. They carried their skills with them when they came to America, and also utilized his skills to establish few industrial employment in the factories of Northeast. The Germans also boasted a German theater, German beer gardens, and German English Academy, and now to Danny about anti-Foreignism in America.
Thank you, Xuan, for the insightful report. I'm Danny and I'm going over anti-Foreignism in America. Starting in the 1840s and 1850s, Catholic German immigrants began to come in droves to America. This alarmed American nativists, citing that the newcomers would outbreed, outvote, and take over them. Since the majority of Americans were Protestant, they saw the immigrants as adherents to a foreign power, the Church of Rome. In turn, the Catholics began to separate themselves through religious schools and educational systems. When they arrived, the Roman Catholics were ranked fifth among the religious powers. But by 1850, they reigned with 1.8 million communicants. These changes prompted the formation of a protesting group, the Order of the Star-Spangled Banner. They spread works of literature and other forms of exposure that defaced the Catholics. One book, Awful Disclosures, sold 300,000 copies. In time, violent actions began emerging, such as attacks of Catholic convents and schools. One such occasion occurred in Philadelphia in 1844, where 2 Catholic churches burned down, 13 citizens were killed, and 50 were wounded. This was expected with how America is such a diverse society and a mix of so many different cultures. Anti-foreignism remains one of the blotches in American history on the topic of America and its minorities.
Why did people immigrate to the U.S.?
Immigrants came to America from their homelands for many reasons. Some had heard interesting stories about the Golden Land, as it was called. They believed this meant that they could get good land, good jobs, have enough to eat, and send their children to good schools.
Would an entire family come together?
Sometimes a family would come all at once, but many times they would come separately. The oldest child and father may immigrate to America, while the mother and other children stayed behind. After earning enough money, the father and son would send for their family.
What did people bring with them?
The immigrants could not usually bring everything that they owned. The ship companies would allow them a certain amount of luggage. The amount they could bring depended on the type of fare that they paid. Although some people just had bundles tied together, others took cardboard boxes, trunks, suitcases, baskets, and leather sacks.
Were you examined before you boarded the ship?
Because the United States government made the ship companies responsible for returning any unhealthy people back to their homelands, the ship companies had a doctor check the passengers before they boarded. They would cut the men and boys' hair very short and comb women and girls' hair carefully to prevent the spread of lice.
How long did a voyage last?
The voyage from the west coast of Europe across the Atlantic Ocean to Ellis Island usually took about 40 days. Sometimes, however, it could take as long as 6 months.
Where would an immigrant sleep and eat on a trip?
If you had first or second class tickets, you would have a private place to sleep and food would be served in a dining room. However, if you had steerage class tickets, the majority of immigrants were in this group, you would sleep and eat at the bottom level of the ship. The crew would feed you lukewarm soup, boiled potatoes, and stringy beef. The beds were narrow and sometimes stacked 3 high.
What happened when they reached the United States?
Many immigrants' first view of the United States was at Ellis Island in New York. After leaving the ship, they were examined by doctors and other specialists. If they were healthy, they were allowed to leave Ellis Island and start their new lives. Some immigrants were returned to their homeland.
Was the voyage dangerous?
The immigrants faced many difficulties on their journey across the ocean. Besides dangerous storms, they also had the possibility of becoming seriously ill and dying.